Thank you, Presiding Officer. I have nothing to hide on this, nothing whatsoever. That's what Nicola Sturgeon said about the Alex Salmond crisis that is engulfing her government and this Parliament. So if she has nothing to hide, can I ask the First Minister if she will publish her evidence to James Hamilton QC over multiple ministerial code breaches?
First Minister.
I have no difficulty with my evidence to James Hamilton being published, but of course James Hamilton is currently considering that, and I think out of courtesy to James Hamilton it is firstly a matter for him as and when he wants to publish that. I think if I was to try to do anything that interrupted the proper investigation and process of that, I would understandably perhaps face criticism. So I have absolutely no difficulty with that being published. If James Hamilton doesn't publish it himself when he issues his report, that timescale of course is a matter for him, then I would be more than happy to consider publishing it afterwards. But what I will not do is seek to interrupt or interfere with the process he's currently engaged in.
Ruth Davidson.
On Monday, the First Minister summoned journalists to her office and challenged Alex Salmond to produce his evidence, only for the Crown to then demand that sections be censored. Alex Salmond's evidence states this: the First Minister told Parliament that she first learned of the complaints against me when I visited her home on the 2nd of April 2018. That is untrue and is a breach of the ministerial code. First Minister, that is one of the sections that the Crown Office intervened with Parliament to remove, despite the fact it has been widely published elsewhere. It doesn't risk identifying complainers, which we all agree is an important safeguard for women who have already been grossly let down by her government. What is it about those two sentences of evidence that is so damaging that they should be censored? Or is it just that they are damaging to the First Minister?
First Minister.
Well, first of all, the fact that Ruth Davidson has stood up and perfectly legitimately recounted that version of events, which of course I will give my own account when I appear before the committee next week, it demonstrates that all of Mr Salmond's allegations and claims about me are in the public domain. They have been widely reported, and I would fully expect, have always fully expected, to be fully and in detail questioned about all of those allegations when I appear before the committee next week. There is nothing in terms of publication or non-publication of evidence that has ever led me to expect anything else. I absolutely expect to be questioned on all and every aspect of this, and I will answer those questions fully and to the best of my ability, and people can judge those answers as they see fit. What I will say, though, is this. Scrutiny of me and the Scottish Government, because the Scottish Government has made a mistake in this process, is not just legitimate, it's absolutely necessary. And I don't shy away from that. I have waited a long time now to appear before the committee, and I am glad that I will finally have that opportunity next week. But anyone who is suggesting that prosecution decisions or decisions that the Crown Office takes in terms of upholding court orders is in any way politically influenced or politically driven is not just wrong and not just completely lacking in a single shred of evidence to back that claim up, but I would also suggest that they are signing up to a dangerous and quite deluded conspiracy theory that risks undermining the integrity and the well-deserved reputation of Scotland's independent justice system. And political debate is right and proper. Politics is not, should not be for the faint-hearted. But I think all of us actually have a duty to conduct those debates in a way that doesn't unfairly trash the reputation of people who are doing their jobs, doing them independently of government.
Ruth Davidson.
Presiding Officer, here's why all the redacted parts of Alex Salmond's evidence are important, because they're exactly the parts that expose the First Minister. On the BBC twice, she claimed not to know of anything about sexual misconduct claims before April 2018. 3 separate times she told Parliament that she found out from Alex Salmond himself that month. But she's been desperate to shut down everything about the secret meeting in her office the month before, because it wrecks her whole argument and confirms that she misled Parliament. The truth is, she knew about those allegations before April 2018. And worse, we know now that she discussed sexual harassment complaints against Alex Salmond with her Chief Executive, with her Chief Civil Servant and with her Chief of Staff in November 4 months earlier? Does the First Minister understand why to the public, this looks like a cover-up when the exact evidence that's being redacted is the most damaging to her personally?
First Minister.
You see, the problem with Ruth Davidson standing up here and recounting all of this and suggesting that it is some kind of cover-up is this. Every single allegation and claim and assertion that she has just made there was included in the written evidence that I submitted to the committee and that has since been published. I submitted that, if memory serves me correctly, back in August last year. I've been waiting since then to appear before the committee. So all of that, the meeting on the 2nd of April, the meeting 3 days earlier on the 29th of March 2018, the fact that a completely separate matter, a media query, came to the SNP in November 2017, that's not a cover-up. I put that in my written evidence and I submitted it to the committee months ago. And people can go onto the Scottish Parliament website right now if they want and look at that. So it's not a cover-up. I expect to be fully questioned on all of these matters when I sit before that committee at long last on Wednesday of next week. Wednesday, I think, by my count, is the 6th date I have had in my diary to appear before this committee. They've all been postponed up until now by the committee for reasons I understand. But I want to sit in front of that committee and I want to address all of these questions. Scrutiny of me is, as I said earlier, it's important, it's necessary, it's entirely legitimate. What is not legitimate is to pursue a conspiracy theory, a scorched earth policy that threatens the reputation and the integrity of Scotland's independent justice institutions just because you happen to dislike this government, and to sacrifice all of that, if I may say so, Presiding Officer, on the altar of the ego of one man.
Ruth Davidson.
People can see your deflection for what it is, First Minister. Just answer the questions. Because this sorry affair isn't just tarnishing the First Minister's own reputation, it is damaging the institutions that it is her responsibility to uphold. Majority votes by members of this chamber to produce legal advice ignored. Crucial evidence freely available elsewhere censored. Promises of openness and transparency broken. The Chief Executive of Scotland's ruling party caught calling for the police to be pressured, the reputation of the Scottish Government tainted, the standing of this Parliament diminished, a culture of secret and cover-up that is only growing, and it is all taking place on Nicola Sturgeon's watch. And there's just one further question I want to ask. First Minister, is saving your own skin worth all the damage that you're doing?
First Minister.
No, the most important thing to me is the reputation of our country, the integrity of our institutions, and I will always act in a way that protects exactly that. But, you know, there is a reputation here that I think is perhaps disintegrating before our eyes, and it's not mine, may I say, but Ruth Davidson has just gone through there a litany of nonsense. She accuses me of deflection. What deflection? She asked me in her previous question about meetings on the 2nd of April and the 29th of March 2018. She accused me of a cover-up. I simply stood here and said it's a strange cover-up when I offered the information in published written evidence to the committee. It's hardly a cover-up when I've been waiting for months with 5 previously postponed dates to appear before a committee. I'm simply making the point that it is possible, and it used to be possible in this country, to have rigorous, robust scrutiny and political debate without a scorched earth policy of conspiracy theory and damaging the integrity of the independent institutions of the country. It is not me doing that, it is me seeking to stand up to them. And can I say this, Presiding Officer, finally? Ruth Davidson wants to lecture the rest of us about democratic integrity. But that's the same Ruth Davidson who's about to depart this elected institution, dodge an election, take a seat in the unelected House of Lords, where she will pursue a political career at the taxpayers' expense, but never have to ask voters for their permission ever again. I don't think Ruth Davidson is in the position to lecture anyone about democracy.